back from NAB. Wednesday, our second show. I'm Duran Gleaves, product manager for audio and Adobe Audition. And with me once again is the venerable Mark Edward Lewis.
Venerable, that's good.
Did I use that correctly?
I don't know, but it's nice.
I liked it. And if you missed yesterday, we covered all kinds of amazing bits and tips and tricks for capturing recordings in Audition, getting rid of background noise, getting the right location, how to use a microphone correctly. If you missed it, go back and watch the streams from before. A whole bunch of great information, but you can still start and watch this today, and you're not going to have missed anything there that's not going to help you out today. So with that, let's let everybody know. I see a couple of familiar faces in the chat room, but for those who weren't maybe here yesterday, Mark, you are a Hollywood sound designer, Foley artist, musician, composer, filmmaker, director, comic book impresario.
Wow.
I know.
All these college words.
And junior high level pronunciations. But notably, one of the things that I've been really impressed with is your Surface Cinema sound, where you have 85 hours of audio training focused on audio capture, audio for filmmakers, audio for anybody who's trying to make good audio and doesn't want to go to a four-year school and get an audio engineering degree, right?
It's funny you say it just that way. When we did, it all started for me back when I was 6 years old. But before I go back there, he's talking about college. And no offense to any of you who went to film school or anything like that, but I did a tour, which is actually where I met Duran, called Sound Advice. And for those of you who were on that tour, you know, it was North America, Australia, 1,200 filmmakers, 8-hour, almost 10-hour day actually, of doing everything that we could do to get sound right for your media, podcasts, independent film, whatever. And I'd always ask the question, how many of you went to film school? And there would be a few people, and I'd ask them, what did you learn about audio there in 4 years and $8 million? And the answer was always relatively the same. I learned how to hold a boom pole, and I learned to not make the recorder level go over 0. Pretty much that was it. And as you know, there's a bazillion more important things than that, actually, and that's why Audition is a really complex and wonderful program that gives us, you know, all kinds of latitude to get that Hollywood edge. But back to me at 6, my grandparents took me to see this little independent movie at Mann's Chinese Hollywood, which is on Hollywood Boulevard. If you've ever been there, it's the theater with you can put the hands and the feet print in the cement and all that. And it was this weird movie, and it starts with this orange text that kind of goes like this, you know what I'm talking about? And then this spaceship that comes in like this, and then it blows up this Corellian cruiser, then there's droids, you know what I'm talking about, that movie. It was 1977. Some of you with math can figure out how old I am now. And I was just like, whatever that is, that's what I want to do. Because at that time, I loved dinosaurs. I wanted to be a paleontologist. I was like, man, this is what I want to do. I want to dig up all the dinosaurs that there are in the world. But you know, listening to John Williams' score and Gary Rydstrom and Ben Bird and all their sound effects and mix work, I was like, that is what I want to do. We did Sound Advice. And really the outcry from all of you who make media is there aren't any great resources for learning cinema or even at this point podcast audio. There's no comprehensive resource. So the makers of MZ and I created this 85-hour education. It's really the only comprehensive audio and sound education in the world for the independent media creative, getting that Hollywood edge, everything from record, edit, fix, effects, music, mix, and then your workspace, getting all of that handled. In addition to 85 hours of education, we also have the entire MZ library, which they're adding to. We just had a new color correction education come in, which I can't wait to see because I want to learn more about that. And that's another 60 hours, directing, editing, cinematography, still photography, I mean, just a whole battery of everything that you would need, basically a master's degree in film making from every aspect. But cinema sound is my passion. I want to elevate the independent media creative and their work to such an extent, to such a height, that when compared to Hollywood big budget media, people choose either or. You know, they're like, well, both of these are good. Let's choose the independent media and watch that and enjoy that. And that's my commitment. Yesterday you mentioned George Lucas said that audio is 50% of, did he say audience experience, or what did he say?
It's 50% of the picture, 50% of the experience.
I'm a little more strong about audio because to me it's about audience impact. It's about dispelling or suspending disbelief. And nothing does that better than audio and sound in any production. And that's why I say it's 80% of the audience impact. And if you can create that Hollywood, big budget, 80% audience impact for the same budget that you had before you saw and learned all the things on Cinema Sound, wouldn't that be amazing? And that's what I'm all about. Let me just show you Cinema Sound here. If we can cut to the screen. So here we go. So we have a free blog where we're updating things, all kinds of stuff that you want to know, lots and lots of stuff to fill your bandwidth. We also have a forum where you can ask questions and get answered by myself. And actually Duran shows up every now and then and asks questions that are specific to Adobe Audition or possibly even Premiere if you have those. And then we also have a store where I'm creating all kinds of things. The team and I, we have Adobe Premiere Pro audio presets. We've got headphones that we really, really love for mixing. That's these actually. And other ancillary education. I'm really excited about the Foley library that we have coming out. If you don't know what Foley is, it's basically any sound that's made by the human body while on picture, like, skin, footsteps, clothing, kissing, all that stuff. And usually you have to drag audio files in to make that happen, or ideally you hire somebody who's a great Foley artist to do it for you. And that's fine. But what happens when the director or the producer or the client or even you get into the mix and you're like, oh man, those footsteps that I drug all those audio files in and lined them all up, those really don't work, I want something different. You're kind of stuck. You have to then replace them all. But what we're creating at Cinema Sound is a Foley library specifically designed for us independents, where it's through MIDI. And we're going to use Sample Tank, so it can interface with Audition and any digital audio workstation, and you can perform it in on a piano keyboard. Dope. And then if you're like, oh, I want to change it, new patch, same sync, everything's great, and you go to town. It's super cool. So we're just creating a lot of resources, education, so that you don't have to go hunting through YouTube and doing all kinds of crazy things to get little patches of information. You can get a comprehensive education that gets you up and running, and we support it. We love talking to you filmmakers and supporting independent media to win.
That's at cinemasound.com.
Cinemasound.com.
That's good, the business end. You're also you're involved in a couple of interesting little, more maybe creative endeavors.
That's true.
You directed a pilot. You directed a television show.
I did. Cinema Sound is kind of my day job, and I'm also a director, and which helps me really understand from an audio perspective what independent producers have to go through. And I'm also a sci-fi nerd.
I think there was a bunch of sci-fi nerds in the chat room today.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, when we were you were hinting at the movie you saw without naming it. I think we can name it without paying certain Mr. Lucas naming rights. But I did like the fan of Trek Wars Galactica: Return of Prometheus as one of the guests.
Wow,
said that.
That's amazing.
That was pretty solid. So I think you're in good company today.
Yeah, especially I see the sound of Ewoks shuffling around the forest floor with branches and snapping as they move. Actually, and the other fun thing about the Ewoks that I wish I'd been on those sessions are the loop groups that they made.
Yeah.
Loop groups is where you take a whole bunch of people, you bring them together, and they make kind of the background noises. How would you like to have been on the Ewok loop group session where they're like, and they do all the crazy stuff and there's a bunch of people? We don't show you how to do Ewok loop groups on Cinema Sound, but loop groups in general.
That wasn't real Ewoks?
Anyway, so Blade of Honor is the name of the sci-fi show that the pilot we're finished, we're pitching it around. It stars, it's actually Richard Hatch's last production before he actually died. Left us about 5 weeks later, he was a really close friend of mine. Those of you who are Battlestar Galactica fans, I'm talking about Apollo. and it's his last performance. We have Tim Russ from Star Trek Voyager. We've got James Kyson from Heroes, Aaron Eisenberg from Deep Space Nine. It's total fun. It's sort of like
It's a lot of fun.
It's like Battlestar Galactica meets.
What was your elevator pitch?
I know. It's been so long since I've had to pitch this thing. Oh man, this is losing me. It's the camera. It's sucking my brain. It's the Tom Cruise movie where he's on a ship, directed by the guy who directed Tron Legacy. It's all sci-fi. Who knows what I'm talking about? It's the director of Tron Legacy, Tom Cruise.
We'll go to the chat room and let them tell us.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out what it is soon. Anyway, so it's like that. Battlestar Galactica meets that.
That's fantastic.
And then I'm also, right now, we've launched I'm also into comic books. Probably none of you are, and that's okay. But I've had a comic book out called Omega 1 that has been out for several years, and we're finishing the last 2 issues of Chapter 1. Not Day After Tomorrow, sorry, that's with Emily Blunt. I'm talking about with the director of Tron Legacy.
You move on.
Okay, I'm moving on.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
Good guess, though, Bill, rather. So we're running a Kickstarter to get the Omega 1 last 2 issues funded, and you can go see that on fundomega1.com. Fundomega1.com, and it's running right now. So cool. Sorry, Voodoo Val.
Oblivion.
That's it. So it's Blade of Honor is Battlestar Galactica meets Oblivion. Thank you.
Fantastic.
I was dying.
I know. So much stress just got released.
I feel great.
We are so we've got a pretty good list of things we want to show today. I do want to mention before we get started on the learning, we want to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
But we do need to get a little serious with this.
We've got to get serious.
So we're as with the other classes today, we are doing a challenge. Offering a challenge to everybody. There are prizes to give away. Today it's a Creative Cloud subscription. And if you click on the Challenges tab next to the streaming video on behance.net/live, you'll be able to download the assets, learn more about the challenge, which is effectively being able to put a basketball into a hoop. Now, if you were watching the session before us, they are Trailblazers fans. I am from Seattle. We lost our Supersonics, so that was the day that basketball died for me. So I'm really hoping that somebody puts out an amazing challenge video, uploads it, gets it into the contest, and re-engages my love of basketball. Give it back to me. You would save me so much. You'd make me so happy, and it's pretty fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, let's stop being serious. And let's get down to the work of audio. What have we got today, Mark?
So yesterday, like Duran said, we talked about some of the basics, recording and things like that. Today we're going to get into plugins, the native plugins in Adobe Audition. And some of you have had some great experiences with them already, but I just want to kind of run you through how do we make dialogue sound great. And we're going to talk about the basic grade in EQ, not in color, which might be confusing, but it'll blow your minds. There's going to be a lot of gray matter on the walls for the next few minutes here for all of you who are watching. We're going to talk about EQ, we're going to talk about compression, we're going to talk about limiting, multiband compression, de-essers. We're going to talk about how to bus and route for reverb so you don't use up unnecessary bandwidth of your computer. And we're going to have possibly, if we have time remaining, some super cool surprises that only Adobe Audition will do. So, and definitely continue to ask us questions. A lot of these questions are probably going to come up for you because I'm going to be using these plugins in a way you might not be used to. But this session do you want to talk about Adobe Learn?
Adobe Learn? Well, of course I want to talk about Adobe Learn.
Just checking.
Well, when you first launch Audition for the first time, and if you stumble across it under Help Audition Learn, you get to see a whole bunch of interactive tutorials. Some of are general, just, hey, here's how you get to round Audition, here's what the different panels do. Some of them are very focused. Hey, how do you work with multi-channel audio files, those MXFs with 8 channels and a boom mic on channel 1 and a lav mic on channel 2 and system sound on 3 and whatever. How do we start to work with those and work intelligently? We have tutorials for those, and you get to go along, follow along. Some of them have media. You click, it downloads, it opens up. You get to play along. You get to do exactly what you're doing in the tutorial with that real piece of media. And with this latest release, we've actually had my friend Mark here record about 2 hours of deep audition knowledge, but deep for brand new people. So it really is people who are coming to audition for the first time, or maybe they've been there a couple times, they've tried to do some things and they get a little stuck. This is the kind of lessons in education you need. This is how to set up your audio hardware, how to move your panels around so you can reorganize the workspace in the way that you want and get rid of panels you don't need. It's how to record in a good location. Why shouldn't you go record in the bathroom when you sound so good singing in the shower?
Right.
Must be a great place to go and record that voiceover
Lord
for your
have
corporate
mercy.
presentation.
Oh my gosh.
It's fantastic. I highly recommend getting in there, checking it out. It's not going anywhere, so if you don't get to it today, get to it tomorrow. Get to it over the weekend when you have a couple minutes. And you don't have to sit down for 2 straight hours. There's like 16 chapters, and you can really just go to the chapter you're most interested in at the time. So if you're thinking, oh gosh, I really wonder, what's this? I want to know some more about clips. How do I get plugins on clips? And why would I use a plugin on a clip versus a track? You can get in there and learn all about that. However, since you're here today, I think we're going to cover that a little bit today too.
We might, yeah.
Okay.
Also, if you close this window and then every time you open Audition, it will stay closed. So once you close it, you won't see it anymore. You'll have to find it from here, Help, and Audition Learn. I said Adobe Learn, didn't I? I meant Audition Learn.
Help me audition learn.
Help
You're
me.
my only hope.
It's Sci-Fi Wednesday today, everyone. All right, so we are in Adobe Audition. This is a real small little session. Tomorrow we're going to be opening up an 80-track session, and we're going to get deep into multi-channel mixing, 5/1 panning, and all that kind of cool stuff. But today this is a really simple mix. It's got some dialogue from L Sonnet, our spokesmodel for Omega 1. We have a couple little sound effect whooshes, and then we have stereo music. So I'm just going to play this for you. This really isn't mixed. We're going to do a little of that here for the next few minutes. But I just want to give you a vibe here for what's going on. Here we are.
The fans obviously loved it. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls every day. The fans.
And then it's looping back and forth in the time there because I have this handy little button selected, the loop playback button, and that is on. And so it loops back and forth in any of the time selections that you have. Really helpful when you're doing editing. Now, you're already going like, I can't hear anything she's saying. And that's correct because we haven't mixed it. These are kind of just tracks that are just up. I fooled with the mix a little bit, the music rather a little bit, but everything else is kind of just open. We're going to look at plugins, and the first plugins we want to start applying are to the dialogue. First thing we want to do is get the dialogue clean, which we've already sort of cleaned up beforehand, and sounding great. So we're going to solo this dialogue by hitting the little S button. S stands for solo, which means that all other tracks are muted. So now we can just focus on Elle's voice.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls every day.
Okay, and you can see here in the waveform, her recording was done very safely while at the recording place. So we have no danger of going over, but it's also a little low. And it's very difficult to hear maybe, especially for those of you who are hearing it from a stream. So what we're going to do is add an EQ. And an EQ, let me just add it first. Let's go, we can do it one of two ways. We can add it from the effects rack that's built in here on the channel. We would do that by clicking effects, so we see the effects rack here, or we go to the actual effects rack. And once this channel is selected, we can select it from there. Filter and EQ, and I'm going to use the Parametric Equalizer. There's a whole bunch of awesome EQs in here. I just really am partial to this Parametric EQ. We're going to use the default, so it's just blank. And an EQ, what is sort of like a fader, the little slider thing that turns volume up and down, but instead of moving all frequencies up and down, it moves selected frequencies, the distance that you want, and you can have it wider or narrower depending on what you need. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm just going to zoom in here and go down a little bit. So this is low frequencies, high frequencies, and then we have several bands in between. Let's say I wanted to boost 200 hertz. This is in decibels. I can do this or this. And then this down here is in fractions of an octave. So if I wanted to boost 1/12 of an octave, which is basically a single note for those of you who are musicians in Western tonality. That's a 12. Very, very narrow. Or I can go out to a whole octave, which would be 1, and very, very wide. So it's a super useful tool. We call this the Parametric Equalizer. And we're going to use this to kind of go through her voice, find some things that we like and some things that we don't like, and deal with them accordingly. So the first thing we need to do is raise the overall volume because it's low. And I can do that here with the master gain.
The fans obviously love it. There's still other types of characters that
I can do this real easily and bring it up maybe 9 decibels.
More
gives me a nice volume to start with so we can hear things. And now, because I don't know, the recordist may or may not have turned on the low cutoff or the high pass filter on the microphone, we want to make sure that no low flubby bass wind or anything else gets through. So we're going to do that here anyway. And I'm going to turn on this HP, which has nothing to do with Hewlett-Packard. This is a high-pass filter. High-pass filter is exactly the same thing as a low-cut filter. They're just kind of interchangeable.
I went to Harry Potter.
Oh, that's good.
For new generation, if you want to really reach the kids, Harry Potter's a good reference.
Okay.
Hewlett-Packard's just gonna.
So old school.
Yeah.
Wow. Who even has one of those? Anyway, we're going to use 48 decibels per octave, which means it's really, really sharp. You can see the difference between 48 and 6. See how 6, it's kind of nice and easy. But we want to really cut this off. And Elle's voice is female. The fundamental frequency of female voices is roughly around 150 hertz. For males, it's 100 hertz. So if we're at 80 hertz, we're sure we're going to not get anything from her voice, but we are going to get any low frequency stuff. This little analyzer shows us that in fact there is junk down here that we want to get rid of.
The fans obviously loved her.
Now when we play, we see a really strong cut, and that's the kind of thing we want for sure to begin.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters.
Cool. Let me see, where'd my video go? Did I lose it? Is it down here somewhere? Video. Oh, I lost it.
You moved it earlier on me.
Oh, did I? Okay. Anyway, so she's back.
The fans obviously loved her.
Cool. So what we're going to do now is what I call a basic grade. Not having to do with color correction, but with EQ. And until you have 30 years of audio experience and you can listen to someone's voice and go, oh, 300 hertz, 2K, this kind of thing, which using what I'm about to show you helps get you there very, very fast. This is a really easy way, a little tedious, but an easy way of finding frequencies in a voice or music or sound effects that are just maybe they don't sound right or they're too harsh to how your brain perceives audio. And most of you know that your brain isn't telling you the exact truth about what we hear. So we need to alter the voice. It has nothing to do with the bad microphone or the bad room or the bad vocalist. It's just stuff we need to do to clean up. Same thing with the picture. Just because you have a $6,000 lens on a Red Dragon running at 6K uncompressed RAW and you put it into Premiere Pro, it doesn't mean that there's going to be the black's perfect and the white's perfect and the color balance right. We still have to get in there and mess with it. It's the same thing here. So how we're going to do that is we're going to start just above her fundamental frequency, which I mentioned was 150 hertz. So we're going to start at 200 hertz. With the bell curve, one of these bell curve bands that's in here. You can see that because I have the ability to change the width. This is a shelf and this is a pass. So we want to do one of these 1 to 5 bands. We're going to start at the 200 hertz level. And we're going to boost 20 decibels, which is really, really loud, but we're going to make it very narrow. And I'm just going to sweep this up and down so that you can hear what this effect sounds like.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters.
So that's the kind of effect that we're going to be listening for. And what we want to be specifically listening into is, are there any frequencies that sing out? It's going to have a general kind of sound, but there are going to be a few frequencies that are going to go shwoong. You're going to hear a note out of it. And one of the great things about the Adobe Audition EQ, Parametric EQ, is that it'll go incredibly loud and get incredibly narrow, far louder and far narrower than almost any plugin, third party or otherwise. It's really, really useful for doing this. So we're going to start at 200 hertz. And we're just going to play this on a loop. You're going to get really tired of hearing her say these lines, but at least we can get a feel for doing our basic grade. Here we go.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown.
Now
I
it
think there
sounds,
could be-
we can hear the ooh, but we're really looking for something that sings out really strongly. We're going to get there in a second.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls every day. The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many.
Hear how there's a note in there? Ooh, it's like, yeah, it's a really weird note that she hits. That's a frequency that's just really being, for whatever reason, no fault of anybody, just something that's getting loud. And we want to reduce it. And you're like, well, why? It's the natural recording. Well, how many of you have had trouble mixing dialogue with music? Right? Me. And you're like, well, the dialogue is just, it's so loud, but I want to bring the music up, but the music, starts interfering with the dialogue. Part of that is that you haven't done a basic grade on your dialogue, and the dialogue seems unnaturally loud, and so you pull the whole fader down instead of pulling down independent frequencies that might just be abnormally loud. And that gives a beautiful balance to the dialogue, which when we later are going to mix the music in, we have a lot more latitude to be able to bring the music up and actually to make the dialogue louder and seem louder than it otherwise would. These frequencies kind of get in the way. So what we're going to do when we find one of these frequencies is we're going to reduce it 10 to 15 decibels. We'll say 10 dB here. And we're just going to make this a little bit wider, maybe a fifth of an octave. See here.
The fans obviously loved her.
Okay, cool. Then we're going to continue, and we're going to be at 500 hertz, boost 20 decibels at a 12th of an octave, and continue.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters.
There's a definite another one right there.
That can be shown. I think.
And it's so close to this one here that we just did that I'm just going to move this a little bit higher and make it a little bit wider and make it a little bit deeper. Because they're right next to each other. So we'll just take one band and notch them both.
Scooch.
Scooch. Continuing.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls every day. The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown.
Yep. And we're going to do the same thing, minus 10 decibels, maybe a fifth of an octave. We're going to continue at 800 hertz, 20 decibels, 12th of an octave.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be.
Yeah.
There's the next one, brutal. We'll call this one fifth of an octave too. You can kind of see what's happening here, right? A nice little mid-range cut that's sort of occurring, which is lovely. It's okay. We don't get concerned because we know we're basically pushing the good sound button. Continuing.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls every day. The fans obviously
Right
loved
there.
her.
Ooh, yeah.
There's still so many.
Ooh, it just hurts, doesn't it?
whistle.
Ow! We're going to reduce this one 15 decibels, make it a fifth of an octave, and continue on here. We're at, what, 2200 hertz at 20 decibels, 12th of an octave.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls every day. The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls every day.
It's right in her S, in that
Yeah.
sibilant. The low part of the sibilant is a
Was that around 300?
4 and change. So we're going to reduce this one 10. This one will probably make, a sixth of an octave. And when you get up to about 5K, the rest of it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of sibilants and things like that. So anywhere from the fundamental of the voice all the way up to 5K, these are the kind of things you really want. And if you run out of bands, like if we needed to do more here, what we would do is merely put in another parametric EQ and then just continue, well, without that curve, not that curve at all. And then you just do it in series. Series, not parallel, in series. And you just continue adding bands. So let's see what we've done here. Let's take this out for a second. Here's with the EQ on.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters.
With the EQ off.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters.
On.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types.
Off.
The fans obviously loved
That
her.
sounds so much better.
So much better, right?
Sounds so much better.
Just imagine mixing music with this.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still
where it's really, and missing body versus this.
the fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other.
Notice also this, that in this EQ basic grade, I've done no boosting. This result is all cutting. And it kind of left over from the old analog days when analog EQs, boosting was usually a bad idea because of how they all work. But what this also allows you is cutting is better because you're never going to go over, right? You can boost a lot of things doing this and sometimes really change your gain structure for your mix. But in this case, because we're cutting, it's always easier to bring things up than having to pull them down. Gain structure stuff, don't worry about that. So we're cutting, and we create this basic grade in the EQ. Now, what we're going to do once we get into the mix is add like you do in color correction. You're going to add to taste and the highs, the lows, and we're going to do that in a second. And you'll have this basic grade that's always locked in on this EQ, and the dialogue's always going to sound great. I'm feeling this, that we need to get serious.
We have to get serious,
Okay,
I'm
we're going to
afraid.
get serious. Here we go.
Mark, if you could seriously reach over and grab those two little bags off to the
Oh,
side
this leg
there.
here, I'm going to pass them under.
Yes, we have to solemnly, we need to do the giveaway.
Very serious.
First giveaway for the show. And today we have these two fantastic metal and enamel lapel buttons.
Oh, is that
You could put them on a tie. You could put them on your shirt collar if you were wearing a collar. If you're tough, they could probably use them as piercings of some sort.
Nose piercings.
Nose piercings.
So dope.
We won't ask too many questions. If you can see them here, there's an Audition one and an After Effects one. If you're using Audition, you're using After Effects, what wonderful way to say, hey, I use Audition and After Effects.
Especially if you're trying to use Audition or After Effects in Audition.
That's right.
That's really special.
You can do some cool things there. That's maybe for another show.
Another show.
So we're going to do the giveaway for those. We'll announce who's going to win these bad boys or these bad girls, whatever they, I think they're gender fluid. Whatever they are, it's all good. These are fantastic pins. You're going to look stylish. You're going to go to your user group meetings or you're going to go to the office and you're going to stand out. So I'm really, really excited to announce. I know he was here yesterday asking questions and helping out. He's been very hyped and excited in the chat room. And today's winner for these is, nose roll, drum roll.
No.
Isaac X.
Hey!
Isaac. These pins are coming to you, buddy. We'll get these off. Special delivery. I'll just set them right there, and I will try my best not to steal them on the
Wow,
way out
no
because they're
kidding.
pretty fantastic.
Just goes.
I don't even have these.
I
I know they got great gear. The Creative Cloud pillows yesterday,
Oh,
pins
man.
today.
That pillow is so dope.
All right. Okay, we can stop being serious and
Okay,
we can
good.
get
Back to
we
fun.
can get back to work.
That was hard. Okay, we've got a great basic grade on our dialogue. And before we can move into making the dialogue sound super nice, super sheeny, super whatever we want, we need to balance the dialogue. And that's where compression can come in. And some of you are trying to do keyframes and this kind of thing, or even automation. That's a lot of work to balance out dialogue that might be really soft and then loud and this and that. Or even in Elle's case, she has a pretty reasonable volume overall, but there's places where you can even see in the waveform she gets loud here, she gets soft here. That's really no way for us to balance dialogue up against anything, much less, dynamic music and ambiances and all that. So we're going to add compression. I'm going to explain what that is in a second, doing the same thing here in the channel. Where am I at? Amplitude and compression. I'm just going to add the single band compressor for now. We're going to look at a couple of these. How compression works is it takes things that are loud that would cross a threshold, and you can see there the threshold little slider, and it brings it down at a ratio. Again, fractions. You got to know division to do this, but no, you don't. So if you have a ratio that's 4:1, that means for every decibel that the sound goes over the threshold, it's reduced by 1/4. If 3:1, it's reduced by 1/3. 2:1, reduced by 1/2. 30:1, it's reduced to 1/30th. That's really, really strong. And we're getting into what we're going to talk about in a second, which is limiting. Then you have the attack, which is how fast does that compressor bring the volume down once it crosses the threshold, and then release is how fast it releases it once it goes below. we want to set the threshold at a setting for easy, balancing like this that isn't killing the louds too much, but also isn't allowing them to go over too much. And a lot of people ask me, like, what's a great setting for compression, for dialogue? And that's like asking, how long is a piece of string? It's like, what? So I'm going to give you a general setting. Look, don't hold me to this, but it's a general place to start. The critical thing is getting the threshold to the right place. So first, let's see where our dialogue is showing up on this little meter down here, which happens to be our master.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be.
So the strong stuff's going over 21 decibels. So we want to bring the threshold down somewhere, I don't know, in the high 20s so that it starts working before it gets too loud. So we're going to bring this threshold down, maybe let's call it minus 30 decibels. We're going to bring the ratio to a nice easy 2.2 to 1. And then the attack, we're going to slow way down to 60 milliseconds and the release to probably 160 or so. You probably can't see anything that's going on. This is really small. We're going to leave the output gain alone for now. Now let's see what happens.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can.
It's a little bit lower, so we can actually do a little more crunch factor. We're going to bring the threshold down a little bit more and the ratio up a little bit more, maybe do a 3.3 to 1, and now see what happens.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown.
Sounds much more consistent.
Much more consistent. Let's add a little bit more just because we're having a grand time. I'm going to do that by bringing down the threshold a few more decibels. What's going to happen now is it's going to start sounding softer and softer because we're cutting those the louds, for lack of a better term.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable.
It's doing a really good job of hovering around minus 27 dB, which is great. Now that we've brought the volume down with the compressor, we're going to bring up the overall volume, because let's say we want a target of minus 20 decibels. So that means we want to bring this up 7 decibels, because it's hovering around minus 27.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls everywhere.
Nice and controlled. Watch what happens if I turn this off.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be.
It sounds like somebody's making her go louder with a fader, but now it's actually off. Here's the danger, just so that you know, with a compressor. The more you bring up compression, what you're doing is turning everything louder and then cutting off the highs. What else is happening? You're bringing up ambiances, ambience noise, and all these kinds of things, which means when you're doing your denoise passes, which we talked about yesterday, you might need to do more than you otherwise think you should, because once we add EQ and all these other things, that noise floor will generally come up. So just be careful of that. Also, you're going to get a lot more sibilance, which some of you, that's the S sound. And she has sort of a sibilant-y voice anyway.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be.
Characters, and there's a high S. And when we get with the color EQ pass that we're going to do in a second, it's really going to get strong. And we're going to show you how to use the De-Esser plugin then. In fact, why don't we just jump into that now while we're trying to make the dialogue sound great. So we've got a great single band compressor setting, which is super dope. I'm going to show you, I'm going to turn this one off. I'm going to show you a different compressor, the one that I love to use, which I love so much in Adobe Audition. It's this one right here.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why do we have so many compressors in Adobe Audition?
That's a great question.
What makes one compressor different from another compressor?
Well, this is a really great question. Why do I like the tube modeled compressor more than the single band compressor? Well, yeah, you would think. It's the same thing with EQ. Why are there so many EQs? Why are there so many reverbs? Why do we need limiters? One limiter fits them all. One to bind them all. One to, for you sci-fi folks. Well, every compressor has its own flavor of doing math, basically, and changing the sound. And the tube modeled compressor, in this case, has what we call a sort of a modeled harmonic distortion that used to come with running sound through a tube, we used to run through a vacuum tube. Back in the old days, that's all we had. We didn't have transistors. So, and it had the beautiful addition, hapless addition, of adding these beautiful harmonic distortion elements, which are very pleasing to the ear and to the mind of the listener. So digital compressors are very harsh in comparison. They're very clean, but very sterile, some might say. But with this tube modeled compressor that Adobe Audition has, it gets rid of all that sterility and does its work in this beautiful kind of old school sound that is just really pleasing. And I'm going to set up the same settings and kind of give you a play-by-play so you can see the difference. So I'm going to do the same settings here. I'm going to mark the threshold at minus 38.1, no fooling. The output gain is going to be 7.1. We're going to have the ratio at, 3.2. The attack is now 58.1, and the release is 164.6. Okay. We should see the same, whoa, wrong thing. There we go. We should see the same thing. What's nice about this compressor too is it has an attenuation level meter and an input level meter, and I love bells and whistles, so let's see what happens here.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters.
We're still around minus 20 decibels, which is great. Let's turn the single band off and turn on and turn the tube model off.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown.
Now listen, if you know what I mean when I say the upper mids, you're going to really hear a much warmer, easier to listen to sound with the tube modeled compressor. Nothing wrong with the single band compressor, it's just a different effect. Here's the tube model.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown.
And?
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown.
And it may not matter to you, and it may be very, very difficult to hear over streaming, but it does make a subtle difference. And you're like, well, it's not that big of a difference. And you're right, unless you have 18 channels of dialogue, or they're all being run through a bus, which we'll show you how to deal with in a minute, and all balanced together, then you really hear the difference, especially when you compound them. So anyway, I'm going to use this tube-modeled compressor as the one that I want to use. I'm going to get rid of the single band. We're going to move this up here for convenience sake. And now let's take a listen one more time.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters.
Cool. Now we're going to add some balancing EQ. Sorry, not balancing, some creative EQ to her voice. And let's go here. Normally you put EQ before the compressor. In this case, because I'm going to demo the de-esser in a second, we're going to put it after just to kind of exacerbate. But normally your EQs, all of them happen before the compressor. So let's take a listen here.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be...
Generally, her voice to me sounds like it could use a little more high frequency. There's sort of a kind of general sound, which I don't like very much, around 750 hertz. And I want to see if I can give a little more body to her fundamental frequency, which we know is around 200 hertz. And if you're in question, you can look at this little graph here, and it'll sort of give you a good idea. And you can see here's her fundamentals here in the 200 zone. There's some weirdness that's here, and if we zoom out a little bit more, you can see how the high frequencies here are a little bit lower than I like. The goal isn't to make this flat by any means, but over time you'll start to see these graphs and kind of notice what you're looking at. Your ears are always the best, so best judge. So let's add the low frequencies first. We're going to just jump up to 200 hertz and just play around here for a second.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown.
If I cut,
I think there could be more relatable characters to girls every day. The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown.
just a little bit, a couple 6 decibels worth of low end. Now let's deal with this 800 hertz-ish is my guess, kind of weirdness that I don't like. And you're probably asking like, well, how do you know all of this? Well, experience and to taste. My taste, I also know the kind of music that we're going to put in on this. But for you, you can experiment in these, larger bell curves and going, do I like this sound? What's this sound? How about this sound? And on Cinema Sound, we actually have a list of things that we show you. Look, this is like this sound. When you want to reach for this kind of sound, that's like this. When you want to reach for this kind of sound, that's like this. But for now, you can experiment on your own and just go with me on this for the moment. So we're looking at around 800 hertz.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls every day.
This here I'm not too happy with.
The fans obviously loved her.
So I'm going to bring it down.
There's still so many other types of characters that can that can be shown.
Less?
I think there could be more relatable
So
characters to
somewhere
girls
in here,
every
just to get
day.
rid of that to get rid of that honkiness that's there. Again, no real reason why it's there, but it is. We get rid of it. And then we're going to address the high frequencies, and I'm just going to take the easy road. I'm going to use this cool little shelf. A shelf is no longer a bell. You'll notice that the frequency that I've set this to at 5.5 kilohertz, everything above it gets altered, which is super helpful. So we're going to boost this a few decibels, maybe 6.
The fans obviously loved her.
Too much.
There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls every day.
Okay.
And the fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters.
Cool. Now you'll notice what's happened in our master LED here. It's gotten a lot louder because we've added a lot more highs and a lot more lows, and that's normal. But if so what that means is if we want to keep it at minus 20 dB, we need to pull down the volume somewhere. I could do it here on the EQ, but since we already boosted it on the tube model compressor, we'll just bring the overall gain down maybe 5 dB. We'll call it 2. Let's see where we are now.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to girls.
Pretty close. Now AB, this is with the EQ off.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable.
Super cool. And this is on top of the basic grade that we did. So we got rid of the bad sounds that we really don't like, and now we can feel free to boost and cut as we need in a general, non-super narrow fashion to create whatever we need to get over the mix or for whatever kind of delivery we want. Well, that's hard to say.
That was a poor delivery.
Poor delivery. Okay, so now we have this. Let's take a look at the music, right? That's what we really all want to figure out. How do we get music to sound great with this at all? And there's some cool tricks that are going to put some gray matter on the wall for you if you've never done this before. So let's take a listen to the music. Now what I've done here is I've put 2 mono channels of music in. There's a left and a right, which sometimes you're going to get. Normally in Adobe Audition or any digital audio workstation, you're going to get interleads, like the left and right channels are in one file, you drop them into a stereo file or stereo channel, and you're good to go. But sometimes if you're doing dynamic linking from Premiere, you'll get 2 mono channels of music. How do you deal with that? There's a lot of really cool ways of dealing with it in Audition, but for me, the easiest way is to create a bus that they go to, and we've kind of already done this for you here. I'm going to show you in the mixer window. Wow, look at this cool window here, the mixer window. What I've done is I've created a bus, and a bus has nothing to do with getting to school, nothing like that. It is a channel that you cannot put audio on in terms of clips, but you can route audio to and then do all kinds of things with it. In this case, I've got, this is the music left channel. I've panned it to the left. This is the music right channel. And in these channels over here, you'll notice they're going to the master output. But look at this, MX for music. These are going to the MX channel, which is this one right here. So the MX channel then goes to the master output after doing whatever it is we want to do to it. So when I play, let me go back here to the edit window. Make sure that this is up. We'll turn the dialogue off. The M is for mute, mutes the sound on the channel. We're just going to mute the dialogue. Let's mute the sound effects. Then it loops. So that's the music. There's a lot of low frequencies in there, right? If you're listening on good headphones or on a good speaker system, there's a lot of going on there, which is super cool because that's not going to get in her way. Her voice doesn't go down there. But there are some frequencies in here that are going to compete with her dialogue itself. And that's where we get into trouble trying to mix music with dialogue. We want to not just keep the music low on a fader. Let me show you what I mean. Of course we can do this.
With Harley, since the fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters.
We're going to drag the mix bus down. I'm going to take the automation off of it.
see something of growth.
Of course we can do
With
this.
Harley, since the fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters.
But it's kind of inconsequential now. The music's kind of not doing what it needs to do. We want to be able to bring up the music loud enough so that the emotional content of it is moving us forward, but not mashing on the dialogue. So let's see how far up we can move this before we feel like it's mashing on the dialogue.
See something of growth with Harley.
We're already
since
there.
The fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters to see something of growth.
If the piano's causing a problem, the horns are causing a problem, ideally you have stems, which we'll be talking about tomorrow in the big mix session. But right now we just have a stereo. We can't get out of it. So what do we got to do? Well, we do a thing called notch EQ. And again, this parametric equalizer is so amazing for doing this. Let's go here. Actually, we'll just go like this. EQ, parametric equalizer. There's that cool shape again. Here we go. So in here,
See something of growth with Harley, since
the piano,
the fans obviously loved her.
cymbals,
There's still
all kinds of stuff that are going on in there that we want to deal with. Let's take a look once again at the dialogue analyzer.
see something of growth.
We freeze, we see that there's a lot of energy here, we know there's a lot of energy here, and those are the frequencies that we want to get rid of in the music. What? I know, it's crazy. Why would you get rid of frequencies in the music? Well, you would if you wanted it to blend nicely with the dialogue. Instead of just pulling the whole fader down, there's a bunch of frequencies in the music that are not combating with the dialogue, and we want to leave those in while pulling the other ones down. So this is like 150 hertz or so. We'll say 150. We're going to pull this down quite a bit. My guess is there's another thing at about 1.5K. We'll say 1500. We're going to pull that down as well. And yeah, it's going to mess with the music. The music's not going to sound as good as it could without. But look, the purpose of music in any multimedia fashion is not to have music for music's sake. It's music to be able to serve the film. And that's what we want. So let's take a look here.
See something of growth with Harley, since the fans obviously loved her.
Probably a little too
There's
much.
still so many other types of characters that can be.
And then we want to use this shelf and add some high frequencies back into the music if we can.
See something of growth.
And we can add super low frequencies with this shelf back to the music because she's not down there at all. In fact, we EQ'd her out of those low
See
frequencies.
something of growth with Harley, since the fans obviously loved her.
Cool. Now let's see if I can bring up the music any more and continue with this great emotional feel that we've got going.
See something of growth with Harley, since the fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that can be shown. I think there could be more relatable characters.
There's probably another thing right at 400 hertz that's right in her way.
See something of growth
That.
with Harley, since the fans obviously loved her. There's still so many other types of characters that
There we
can be shown. I think there could be more.
So I was able to bring this up an awful lot. And the music tenor is still there. You're feeling, actually it feels more enveloping. It feels more like wow, so you're in a set in this beautiful theater of emotion and all of that. So that's using notch EQ for music. Again, what I've done is I've taken the frequencies in the dialogue out of the music using the parametric EQ.
You've essentially created a pocket of reduction in the music where her voice tends to sit and can just fit right in.
Correct. Now, what about the dynamic nature of the music, right? We don't want to be doing keyframes on music like this all the time. That's also a pain. Just like we did compression in the dialogue, I'm going to show you a tool that you may not know about. It's one of the best versions of this plugin in any digital audio workstation anywhere. In fact, I prefer this to any digital audio workstation's version of this tool. So we talked about compression, and this music isn't really that dynamic, but you can see here it does sort of kind of peak out. It's got some things that get loud, and that may be a problem, especially back here. Look, it's quiet back here.
Show a little bit more of a change or
In fact, let's go back even further. Look at this.
leads and have a great movie and
How about this?
watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can.
Now we've got the music down really low. In fact, I'm going to mute the dialogue for a second so you can really hear it. And we want to be able to balance this out so it's not just loud, soft, or we have to deal with it. And again, we can use a compressor. Now let me show you. If we use the single band compressor, we can certainly do that. In fact, let's use that tube model compressor because it's so sexy. Let's see where the music is showing up. Looks like about minus 18, 20, something like this. We're going to bring the threshold down, I don't know, we'll do minus 30, that's okay. We'll do a 2 to 1, we'll make this nice and slow, we'll make the attack even slower because music needs a little bit slower attack. Okay, now we're going to go back here, and we're going to replace it with a little output gain so we can hear it. It works, but what happens when that bass comes in? Just, right? Just like, oh, this is nice, whoomp. And most of that energy is the bass notes. And unfortunately, the overall sound of the music is dropped down because there's only one band of compression here. And anytime it's going to see a large energy, it's going to bring everything down, almost exactly like pulling the fader down. Dialogue, that's okay. Usually that's fine. But on music, sometimes, especially in this case, where we want an overall balance regardless of what frequencies are happening, this is never going to work. This is not the right tool. It's a perfectly good tool, just like a screwdriver is, for putting screws in, but we never want to use a screwdriver, unless you're nuts, to put a hammer into a piece of wood. I mean, a hammer. That's great. A hammer into a piece of nail. A nail into a piece of wood with a screwdriver. Not the right tool. Let me show you
You've
this.
been at this an hour, I understand.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're all worn out.
I'm all worn out. I have yet to begun. Let's see. Let's do this amazing thing, the multi-band compressor. Oh, amazing. It's basically 4 compressors in one. Each compressor linked to a specific frequency band. Let me show you. So here, let me zoom in. We've got, this is the low compressor. It's sort of in this teal, lovely teal green. And I'm going to keep it down here below 100 hertz. And then I'm going to just kind of space these out in an easy way so that everything from 4,000 hertz up gets out of that sibilant zone, then upper mids, and kind of that honky mid low section there, which is cool. Let's go over here. I can set all of these bands globally for a second, and let's do that. We'll call this 2.5 to 1. We'll make the attack reasonably slow. We'll make the release really slow because it's music, and we'll bring the threshold down pretty far. Let's see what oh, and we'll bring the overall gain up. What was that other one, like 9? Let's see what happens now. One more time. Notice the overall volume of the music doesn't feel like it's dropping at all, although the lows are getting really, really compressed. And you can tell that here. Watch this little red dot, or the red attenuation LED, when the low frequencies come in. It's really getting crushed, which is what we want. Lows are getting just smashed while everybody else is being left alone, which is a really, really useful thing when you have some frequency in your music that's going crazy and you want everything to be under control, because music is really, full bandwidth, whereas dialogue is kind of more narrow. You doing okay so far?
I'm good.
Okay, good. I've used this plugin to fix noise problems with podcasts. In fact, we were at the podcast movement and somebody brought in a podcast where they had recorded a guest from Skype, and it was terrible, so terrible. And all it really was the mid-range frequencies were so loud, and there wasn't any high frequencies or any lows, and we were able to use the multi-band compressor to compress those mid-frequencies while leaving the rest alone, like really strong. And what happened was a much nicer overall balance, so it's really cool. So let's see what this sounds like now with dialogue. We've got a good music balance with the multi-band compressor. We've got our tube model compressor and basic grade on the dialogue itself. Let's see what happens.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can actually explore with that. With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead.
So I'm going to turn up the attack because that guitar that comes in, that bling, kind of jumps out more than I want. In fact, I'm going to turn the guitar on all these channels, the attack on all these channels down pretty far, like maybe 15 milliseconds.
Women of all ages come and watch
It's
and
going to
enjoy
react
it.
very fast.
I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can actually explore with that. With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really.
See how that guitar, that bling, got kind of cut off, and you didn't really notice it. If we'd used a single band compressor, you'd hear all the music go whoom, like this when it came in. So this multi-band compressor is so amazing. Cool, we've got a good balance now generally between she and the music, but let's have even more fun. The music, although it's very stereo right now, could be made more stereo. And the more we get the music away from the center channel, if you will, we're in stereo, but it's mono, which is where she is, the more space she has to be heard, and the music can be brought up more theoretically. Audition has this amazing plugin, stereo imagery, stereo expander. Look at this dope right here. Oh, I better solo the music just for a second. Or we'll mute the dialogue for now. So if you're listening on a laptop, bring the laptop up to your face like this, otherwise you might not get this. But this is a really cool plugin, allows you to change where you're putting the center frequency, but we want to deal with how much expansion of the stereo we want. Check this out. No. And
A little guitar strum there.
yeah, it kind of goes around because the multi-band compressor is doing a cool Zulu thing to it, and the stereo expander algorithm, which I can't possibly explain how it works, does its cool thing, and you kind of get this cool. It feels like the music's coming back. If you're on headphones, you know what I'm talking about here. One more time, because it's so dope. Back to mono we go. There's normal. It's just that kind of cool, music too, where it's kind of spacious. So all I did was make a slider happen, right? Totally dope. Let's add the dialogue back in, see how she feels with this expanded music.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can actually.
She's definitely separated from it, but what's happened with this stereo expansion is that the music, if you're in headphones, is going to feel a little bit louder. If you're on a laptop, it probably doesn't feel that much louder, but if you're on headphones like we are, it feels a little bit louder. So we're actually going to bring it down just slightly.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can actually explore with that. With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked, but she was not.
It's pretty dope. And just to remind you where that music was, I'm going to mute or turn off all these plugins.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it.
With it on. Off.
Flat, lifeless.
Sounds terrible, but it's good music. It was a fine mix when we did it, but now that we've added all this dope to it, it sounds so great. And the same with her. If we go back to where she was at.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can actually explore with that. With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked, but she was not.
So you kind of get the idea. Simple plugins: the stereo expander, parametric EQ, tube model compressor, single band compressor, and the multi-band compressor. It gives you this kind of easy control over dialogue music, and you can mix music. Some of you are like, the music's too loud. Well, do it to taste. You can always use the fader or drop the music EQ notches down even further to get more of a space for that dialogue. Uh-oh, here we go.
Time to get serious.
Serious now, everyone.
Serious business time. I just wanted to note that there's just 25 minutes left in the challenge submission deadline. I took a look. It looks like we've got one challenger who has uploaded a video for the challenge so far.
Thank you.
If nobody else uploads, it's going to make your job selecting the winner very easy.
Yes.
And we are all about making it a little more difficult for you. So please grab the challenge media, pull up After Effects on your second monitor, or squish one of your monitors or one of your screens small so you can still watch us and see our hilarious hijinks when we don't have the noses on.
Did we solve the audio thing yet? So we can hear audio?
So that we can, I don't know. If there's audio there, we'll find out.
Okay. Yes.
Wonderful.
So audio matters, folks.
So if you put sound into your video submission, I'm just saying that, you know, that will be an automatic +1. You know, we're all geeks here today. It is a sound of adding +3 for your video.
Damage +3.
There we go. I was trying to make a Dungeons and Dragons joke, and I really couldn't.
Damage. Yeah, something there.
So there's that. I did have a question for you from earlier. It's just a quick one from Rasim. It's just a quick one.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, how do you effectively correct sound distortion caused by electrical glitch?
Oh.
Now, we did cover some of that yesterday, such as RF hits and other sounds. In yesterday's video, you can go back on the replays and see that, where we worked with a lot of that in the spectral frequency design, spectral frequency editor. So we showed some parts where you're going in, cleaning out not just electrical sounds and very sharp zzz sounds or some distortion, but pops, plosives, sibilants. We were showing off sibilants using the tools in there to pull it out in a very Photoshop-like way.
Yep.
Although you're in Audition, so it's in a very Audition-like way.
Audition-like way.
So that's a fantastic question. If you've got more questions, please put them in the chat room. We'll get to them as soon as we can.
Otherwise, you got to listen to me talk about whatever I want to talk about.
Does it smell like clowns to you in this
It
place?
sort of does. Really dirty clowns. I don't know why.
Let's drop the serious business and get back to
having fun.
back to the fun of work.
Okay. Wow. Fantastic.
Still
All right.
smells like clowns.
It does. I don't know. Maybe it'll go away once they go away. Okay, let's talk about busing. Again, not having to do with going to school, because when we're dealing with buses, creative use of buses allows us to free up resources in our computer, because we can assign multiple channels to a single effect or series of effects using buses. We can also do submixing with buses, but I'm not going to do that today. You'll see that tomorrow in our big mix. But reverb. Let's talk about reverb. And tomorrow I'm going to show you the convolution reverb and how you can use that in your mixes, which if you're in post at all and you need to do IR stands for impulse response.
Jinx.
Wow! Impulse response of your room, and you want to recreate your set back in Adobe Audition, you can totally do that now, which we'll show you about. But for now, I'm just going to use some algorithmic reverb. So I'm going to go to the mix window by hitting the right key. And I've actually assigned in my key commands numbers that allow me to jump between the windows, the waveform view. And I really recommend that you do that. It's super helpful than having to go up. And anytime you can not have to use a mouse to do a command, it saves you time, and we're all about that. All right, so let's say we want to add our dialogue track, some reverb on the dialogue track. And of course, the easiest way is to just drop, let's go to the effects rack, and we can just drop it in here on the channel. The problem that we're immediately going to run into is that this is a mono channel. And that means you're only going to see mono reverb, which is like, really? I mean, unless you're doing a mono podcast, but who does that? So we want our reverb to always be stereo. Well, if you've got everything on a mono track, the only way to do that is to make a new stereo track, drag all your plugins over, drag all the clips over. Why? What we really want to do is allow any of these tracks to be able to have the benefit of that reverb as well if we want. We may not, but it might be cool if we did. Here's how we do that. We're going to create a bus track, stereo bus track. We're going to assign the dialogue from L to it, in addition to it going out dry to the master. And then we're going to assign that bus to the master, adding a reverb to it. So the first thing we're going to do is multitrack, track, add stereo bus track. And you can add a 5-1, which is totally dope, which we'll talk about tomorrow, or a mono bus track, but nobody wants mono reverb. I mean, unless you're doing something mono. Anyway, all right, so here, bus A is how it's named. We're going to call this the reverb bus, which is so dope. We're also going to drag it over to the right so it's not in our way, and we're going to make it bright lobster, I think. What is that? Coral?
Is that millennial pink, which was the Pantone color of the year?
Is that it?
No, it's a little bright for that.
Okay.
But I don't know many other shades of pink, so.
Well, let's see here. If I go like this and I do this, what if we do, maybe it's 335. Maybe that's a little bit closer to millennial pink. Anyway, let's take L's
Men of
dialogue,
all ages come.
which is here. Now check this out. It's going to happen fast. Watch me very closely. This is send 1, S1 for short. Send means whenever I turn up this fader, whatever's on this channel goes wherever I tell it. I'm going to tell this to go to reverb. Now that just magically appeared once I created that bus and named it reverb. Now it's going to reverb. I also get a pan, which if I want to do that I can. And by the way, if you want to find the other sends, you just go this little fader looking slider down, you get up to 16 sends, which is super dope. Now we're going to just hit Option and make it unity gain, so it's going to get the full volume over here in the reverb channel.
Men of all ages
There
come
it
and
is.
watch and enjoy it.
Notice it's in stereo now because I made a stereo bus. It's just, splitting them back and forth. Also, this is going to the master channel. Let's add a reverb. Yay, reverb. Let's see. What reverb do you want to use? Regular? Unleaded?
Let's go regular.
Regular.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, when we bring this in, you'll notice this little red bar that happens over here, this little cool thing. That tells you that, hey man, this is a really intense plugin. This is gonna mess up your computer unless you've got a really fast computer. You might hear glitches and pops and things like that. Well, if you do, and you're running this and you're not able to run it in real time, don't worry, because you can use pre-render,
Track pre-render.
track pre-render. Thank you very much. And in this here, I'm not sure.
It's the little
Where
lightning
am I
bolts.
seeing it? How come I don't see
You
it?
can't do it on a bus.
Oh,
track.
yeah. I have
Just
to do
on
it over
audio
here.
tracks.
Okay, so in this case, we're on a bus, so we can't pre-render it. But if we had to put it on a track, we could. But we're not gonna have any problems here.
Men of all ages come and watch and enjoy it.
Okay, what have I got here? I want the wet signal to be 100%. I'll just type it. I want the dry signal to be 0. Wait a minute, why? Don't we want to hear the original signal? Yes, we do, and it's already going to the master output by itself. The send is in addition to what's coming out of the master, or of the channel. So we don't want any dry signal going to our cool reverb. We only want the reverb signal.
Men of all ages come and watch and enjoy it.
And you can already hear this sort of a nice roominess that's in there. Let's really make it obnoxious. Let's make the decay time, I don't know, this is in milliseconds, so 6 seconds, that's 6,000 milliseconds. We'll make the pre-delay time, so it's got a really nice delay to it, about 90 milliseconds. The diffusion sounds good to me. We'll leave this for a second.
Men of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much.
Now she's in some kind of a Taj Mahal. I can also change the perception of it and make it very reflective.
Men of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important.
Or add carpet to the walls, ceilings, and floor.
Men of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still.
And that's a cool sort of algorithmic convolution that the good folks at Adobe put in there, which makes dealing with high frequency cutoffs and EQs a thing of the past. Thank you very much. So this is obviously a horrific setting we really don't want to use. We just want to make it nice. So we'll make it a nice 2.5 seconds. We'll give it a 34 millisecond or so pre-delay.
Men of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I.
So that's the right reverb for me, I think, but it's just too much. Now, instead of having to deal with the plugin, we're going to leave the plugin the way it is, and all we have to do here is turn the send down to this bus.
Men of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more. Men of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we. Men of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important.
So a nice, easy thing. Now you're like, that's cool, Mark. I could see how I could use that. But what if we want to add music to the reverb, which might be not a bad idea. We could do that. Well, it's as easy as going to this MX bus. It's a bus already, saying, go to the reverb, tell it whatever volume we want.
Men of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much.
Let's see here. So now it's got some nice spaciousness to it, and when we add them all together, it's way too much on the music. It sounds like this in a toilet.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can.
Cool, right? All right, so this is super dope. We can add reverb, we can do bussing. Now, here's the thing that we always have to watch out for, and we talked about this on, yesterday, and that's you never want to go over 0. Now, we are nowhere near 0 right now, but what if we were? What if we had a lot of channels and the master output was hitting those red lights? We would have a problem. We would get the call from quality control saying, hey, man, we can't accept this, or whatever. And not to mention it's going to sound terrible. We're missing data. Boo, hiss. What do we do about that? Well, we talked about compression earlier. We said that if you ran the compressor up to a 30-to-1 ratio or something like this, it's going to get really, really rough. Well, that's what limiting does. It's basically infinity to 1 on that threshold. The audio comes up and nothing can go over. And it does it without distorting, which is super dope. Where would we use such a device? Well, I actually already have it instantiated here on the master output. This is the hard limiter. It's just, actually, these are weird settings. Oh, not too weird. And for me, I like to have the limiter at minus 0.2 when I put it across the master. Minus 0.2 decibels ensures that anything that might, however small, get over the threshold doesn't ever go over 0. And some people's red lights start turning on at minus 0.1. And even though it doesn't go over 0, people get freaked out when they see red lights. So minus 0.2 means the red lights never come on, and it doesn't change the volume. 1/10 of a decibel is not really going to change the volume that much. This is the input boost, which allows us to turn things up really, really loudly, basically bring it up loud, and then have the limiter do a lot more crushing. Look ahead time, I like it around 10 milliseconds. It's a magic voodoo thing. I like 10. And then I want the release time for overall media to be as short as possible. And then I like to unlink channels. That way the limiter is working independently on both left and right, so that if something gets loud on the left, it doesn't also squelch the right down, which could be weird. So we want them to work independently. Let's see here. If I hit play, yeah, we're nowhere near 0. We said we wanted the dialogue at back, way back there at minus 20. So let's turn this up. What's the best way to turn this up? Well, I could use the input boost, but I suppose that's cheating. Let's turn up her volume, plus 15 dB. We're going to turn up this stuff here, and then I'm going to turn this way down so I don't blow up Paco.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much.
I'm still not going over. Okay. Well, this is going over, but this isn't.
Nope.
Oh, that's because I have the
limiter on.
That's what I was just saying.
It's doing exactly what it was supposed to do.
Okay, watch this.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can.
Now, Audition's great enough where even though we're really going over, it's going, it really doesn't want to go over. We'll just try to help it instead of making it too distorted. But don't do this. We're missing data, and we see red lights, and we'll get that horrible phone call. Once we put the hard limiter on, which again is over the master outputs.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can actually explore with that.
Not going over 0 at all, and on either one of these meters here, it's keeping it just under. And you're hearing a little more compression, especially when the bass comes in, because the limiter is a single band. And once it sees anything go over 0, it's like, oh, everything comes down. But because we've already compressed it with the multi-band compressor, that bass is kept under control. Watch what happens when I turn the multi-band compressor off and make it all loud, and see what the limiter will do.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it.
I better turn this back up.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more.
You get that massive compression when the bass comes in, and kind of this oscillating while the limiter is trying to get in between literally the frequencies of the bass frequency. So one of the great reasons we use that multi-band compressor on music is that it helps balance it out, and when we get loud, if we need to, for say an internet mix or something like this, the limiter isn't breathing hard and going, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm trying to make it sound good, you send me this. What are you doing? You're crazy. So anyway, that's the use for, a really great use for the limiter. Not the only use, but how I primarily use that hard limiter is across some kind of a master bus, maybe if you're using 5.1 or something like this, or the master stereo output for sure.
Fantastic.
How are we doing?
You're teaching me, you're teaching everybody some amazing things.
Oh.
It's absolutely fantastic. It's nice to hear it. It's nice to get the before and after. It's really beneficial in headphones.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. We do got to take care of a little bit of business here.
We gotta
One is just a notice.
Get
There's
serious.
about 9 minutes left on the challenge submission. I do see we've got 4 entries total now, so
Awesome.
you are going to have to do some work. It looks like there's some very cool things coming in.
Oh boy.
I did want to address Isaac X asked this. He won the pins earlier.
Oh yeah.
I think he mentioned this. He asked this yesterday. We didn't get to it. He asked it again today. It's along the lines of what we're talking about now, as we're talking about how to take musical elements. And I'm going to take the nose off for this because I want to have some fun with this.
Oh yeah, we got some fun.
How to take music tracks and how you if you can separate a mixed music track, separate the different instruments out into separate files, separate streams. I can tackle that one, and then if you have some suggestions, I'm all ears.
Sure. Hit it.
So the first thing is there's kind of a saying among audio pros about this exact question, and that goes that you can't really unbake a cake. Once that cake is mixed together and put in the oven and baked and frosted and all the little jellies are put on top, it's pretty much done. You're not getting back to the individual ingredients. There are techniques to be able to pull some of those elements out. If it's something like vocals that are generally mixed into the center, maybe very dry, not a lot of reverb. You know, the talent is very professional, has a great voice, so they put them dead center and they put the instrumentation around. You can use effects like Audition's center channel extractor to actually get in there and separate the vocals and make a karaoke version or an instrumental version, or get rid of the music and just have the vocals if you just want an a cappella version. Now, again, your mileage may vary on every song. There's a lot of David Bowie songs from the 60s that it does amazing things with. Then you get into the Beatles, who were playing with 4 tracks and all these reverbs and stuff. And yeah, good luck. And, you know, Led Zeppelin, you're gone or there. Am I dating myself with my references?
You're dating me too.
They all came before me. I'm just, you know.
I already told him how old I was, so.
Oh, that's right. You were like all adult for Star Wars or something. There's also something interesting that's in Audition is what we call the frequency band splitter.
Oh yeah.
And you can actually get in there and just separate a song or a recording by frequency bands into multiple files, up to say 5 different bands. And while again, you know, instruments exist and overlap to an extent, and while they're generally mixed in different ways with different frequency spaces, it's not going to be perfect, but you're going to be able to say pull out all the bass and the bass drum and the kick drum. So all those low frequencies that exist, say below 100 hertz, and then you're going to be able to go in and kind of do that with different instruments. And you may not get a perfect separation, but then you may be able to go in and do some EQ, some compression on just different aspects of it. Maybe you just get the hi-hats, and you have those on their own track. You're able to separate those out and put a little delay on there so it sounds like you got some triplets going, or put a little reverb on there so they sound like they're being played in a bigger space. So there's no one answer for how do I separate a piece of music, but there's a lot of approaches to be able to have some fun manipulating, remixing it, and doing a lot of that work.
You nailed it.
Sweet.
That was it.
Well, I'm going home.
Don't leave me here. Not on the camera.
All right, we have just over 5 minutes on that challenge submission deadline. We just got a new one in as well.
Nice.
So we're trucking right along. People are really busting their backsides to get those done and in on time.
Awesome.
So
I got
really
5
cool.
minutes to talk about de-essing, which is all I need.
Give me de-essing.
De-essing. Here we go. We had talked earlier about, let me just mute this, that sometimes you get a lot of sibilance in the voice. Where does my video go? my video, there it is. Hi. Sometimes you get sibilance in the voice when you use a lot of compression, or obviously when you use a lot of EQ. So I'm going to show you, she actually doesn't sound that bad, but let's really make it strong here.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it.
Let's mute the reverb, as fun as that is.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can...
And I'm going to really turn up this this is the tube model compressor.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can actually
really
explore
strong
with that. With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people. Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it.
Even more.
I say it's very. Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it.
So now she's at a setting where her sibilants, her S's, her consonants, although it's really clear to understand her, it's really like, it's just like, you get a haircut like mine listening to this sound, which some of you already have.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important.
And while it's really nice to have her so clean, we need to find a way to clean up and reduce those sibilants. So we could use a multi-band compressor, absolutely, and just leave the other 3 bands alone and just make the high band work. But there's a better tool for that, one that's a whole lot easier to use. We're going to go to Effects Rack, because I've only got 3 positions here. And after all of this, we're going to find, under Amplitude and Compression, the De-Esser. And a De-Esser basically is a 1-band compressor that you can... What are you looking for?
Oh, I'm just saying you could scroll down.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I got this little thing here. You're right about that. Hey, there it is, the De-Esser. It's a single band compressor that's not broadband anymore. You can tell it, hey, go here, go here, go here. And you could use a De-Esser to really be a de-basser if you wanted. Just select it way down or something like this. But in this case, we want to direct it directly to her sibilant type sounds. And let's see, we want to do multiband. Actually, I could tell it to do broadband, but multiband will do for now.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it.
And the easiest way to find where those sibilants are is to select the output sibilants only, and then you're only going to hear where that band is.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it.
And we're going to move this frequency until it hurts us.
We can actually explore with that.
Make the bandwidth a little bit narrower. Somewhere in there.
There needs to be maybe they talked about another film of Harley.
Sure. And then we turn this off and we see what it's doing. You can see this gain reduction knob is going LED's going crazy.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that.
In fact, it's doing such a good job that her S's are kind of starting to sound like F's or fricative. So we can take the threshold up a bit.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can actually explore.
And without?
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much.
And with?
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can.
You want to get it to maybe a place where the S's are slightly different than the F's. If you get it too much, then it's like, you're looking at Old English where the S's were like the F's all the time, like how that is.
One of the best pieces of advice I've heard for this and other effects is to turn it up until you notice it, and then just pull it back just a hair.
And that's great advice for any effect where you're trying to be subtle. And let me say something in the clear about high frequencies in general. In fact, I'm going to demo this. You're going to hate this, but I'm going to show it to you because that's the kind of guy I am. Let's see here. Oh, I'm on this channel. I'm going to turn off the De-Esser for a second. I'm going to turn back this parametric EQ. I'm going to bring our high slope down to 0. I'm going to make it here. High frequencies are the great magician of audio to your brain. Your brain is addicted to high frequencies like heroin. And the more high frequencies you add, the more it normalizes to it and goes, this sounds normal. And then you have to add more and more and more and more. And then you come back the next day and you're like, what's happening? And nobody believes me about this, which is why a lot of people have way too much high frequencies in their mix, and I've been guilty of it too. Let me demonstrate this for you. I'm just going to use this dialogue track and I'm going to slowly bring up the high frequencies. Now first, this is with it, just normal.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more.
I'm just going to bring it up.
We can actually explore with that. With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked, but she was not a good role model. I feel like
I'm not hearing it change. That's weird. Am I missing something here?
women of all ages.
Oh, it's doing it when I stop. That's weird. All right.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say
We'll go up in 3 decibel increments.
women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important. Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important. Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more.
Keep going.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much. Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still. Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it.
Oh, we're going to keep going.
I say it's very important, and I
Oh,
still
we're not
feel.
done.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still.
We're going to get to
Women
30.
of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important.
Here's 30. 30 decibels loud. 30! 30!
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important, and I still feel like there's so much more that we can actually explore with that.
Now, I'm playing it a long time, so you can get the deal. But I'm going to bring it back to 0 now.
Women of all ages come and watch and enjoy it. I say it's very important.
That's where it was. I didn't change anything. All I did was bring it back to 0, and you're like, oh, it's so dark. It sounds terrible. I want to go back to that high frequency thing. Even though it was a little shrill, you're like, but that sounds way better than this thing it was. When we add high frequency slowly and keep adding it to it, your brain and your ear gets used to it, and it will happen. What will happen is you'll get ear fatigue and maybe even hearing damage if you're listening at a loud level. So be very careful. We want to adjust everything else before we adjust those high frequencies, because it can be so deceptive. Does that make sense, everybody? Learn from my huge mistakes doing this.
That's a pretty impressive demo.
Pretty crazy stuff. All right, so we're just going to go back to 7. What were we doing? Oh, that was de-essing, and now we're probably here, are we not?
We're getting pretty close. So
Okay.
the challenge submission deadline is over. It looks like we have about 9 entries.
Awesome.
We're going to get to. We've got, before we dig into that, if there's something that's gonna, you got 5 more minutes, or
We don't have any questions to jump to at the moment?
We did have a question
Okay.
from Racine. We sort of answered it earlier.
Oh.
I'm not sure if he caught the answer, but
was
his
Racine's
question
question?
was, what do you do to correct distortion caused by electric glitches?
Oh, yeah.
Electrical
We did answer
interference?
that. By electric glitches, if it's hum, like if that's the glitch we're talking about, I don't think that's 60 hertz, but you're close. Way down there. Then there's a plugin for that. There's an app for that.
It's a de-hummer.
The de-hummer, and it's like dope, simple, great to use. If you've got a digital preamp or something that caused a discontinuation, is what we call it, where the data got lost, you've got a couple of methods. You can either roll the dice with the pop filter or the click filter, and it may take it and smooth it. Or you can actually get into the waveform itself in Audition and redraw and make it smooth. And then you've got really, really good control. And one of the nice things about Audition that I don't know that any digital audio workstation has is the ability to do it'll actually do Bezier curves on your little sample dot points so that it'll automatically kind of super smooth it for you. Whereas, if you've ever tried to redraw waveforms yourself, it's incredibly interesting how your brain goes, that's not right, that wasn't real, that's not a real waveform. You're like, but it's so nice, but that's not how nature would work. So sometimes you need that extra help. So those are your 2 real, am I missing anything?
I would also add the auto heal for
Oh, yeah, of
for
course,
RF
auto
hits
heal.
and for clips, and if you've made an edit and this sample was here but this sample's here, and so
How much
there's
time do I have?
You've take 2 minutes.
Okay, 2
You got
minutes.
2 minutes?
Watch this. This is actually a great question and something that I want to demo here on the dialogue. I'm just going to open up this in the spectral view. Forgive me for going fast. Oh, let's see. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to go like this. How far is that? I want just under a frame. That should do. I'm going to go effects, generate, noise. Wait, Mark, what are you doing? Wait, no, don't do that. Pink. Let's call it white. Oh, what just happened?
with that.
Oh, it's an RF hit.
With that.
Oh, are you kidding me? Who does that? But watch this. If I go and select and hit play. right? I mean, that's what you get when you have an RF hit, more or less, some kind of white noise hit like this. I mean, you're an ADR, right? Or you got to chop it and put silence and hope you have room tone to heal it. What a freaking mess, right? I can use the auto heal tool. Look at this cool brush right here. Actually, let me select out of that for a second. I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to hold shift down so it makes a straight line. If I don't, then I get this kind of thing. Or it does that. And I'm just going to hold shift down and go all the way to the bottom. What just happened? And I got a little bit of it here and a little bit on the bottom, but oops, it's so happy to help. There's this one. I'm just going to get these bottom bits.
With that.
Whose mind is blown now?
I am.
With that.
You'll notice it didn't, there's no missing frequency data. There's not this vacuum, this of digital
With that.
silence. It's filling
with
that
that.
gap in with frequency information from either side, that ambience information. So
Yeah.
it makes a very natural transition. It gets rid of it. It works extremely well.
Yeah, and you'll notice that, you know, it's not a perfect breath.
With that.
There's a little funniness in there. Would you rather have that or this? You know, I do this little white noise demo all the time, and people are like, whoa, wait, what just happened? And as you saw with the healing brush, you can do it, you know, in any frequency that you want. You can also do this and hit Command U, which is the healing brush, and that's anything that's in your selection, which is super cool. It does the same thing. And I don't know where that is. Is it here? Oh, it's right there. Auto heal selection, Command or Control U. So there, I wanted to demo that.
Fantastic. I think that's an awesome thing to end our lessons for today.
Cool.
And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks, buddy. Let's put our noses on and get real serious,
serious.
because it is challenge review time.
Yes.
We've got 9 submissions to go through,
Oh, boy.
and I think they're about 5 minutes each. So
Wow, we'll be here for 4 hours.
let's get started. So the first one's from Naveen. These are from the challenge media. So the goal was simply to get a ball through the hoop
With
After Effects.
After Effects, I'm with you.
And I don't know about you. You're pretty tall. I'm pretty tall. You a good basketball player?
Terrible.
Me too.
I don't know what that's about.
Me too. My coach made fun of me in 8th grade, and I just couldn't go back.
I never even got that far.
All right, let's try this out. Let's see what he's got here. So, Naveen.
You've got your volume up.
Oops.
There we go.
Action replay.
Nice.
Let's try that. I want to see that one more time. I was looking down. Shoo. Boom.
cool.
Pretty nice. A little bit of hoop. All right, let's see what we got next. Tim.
Number 2. Tim.
Tim has. Whoop. Whoa.
Great stuff.
I want to see that. Hold on a sec. I got to see what. Whose head is that?
Freeze frame.
Ah,
Who is that?
I'm assuming it's Tim's.
Oh.
Boom. All right. Man. All right, let's go to the next one. Atif. I like the wings already.
Haha. Brutal.
That's fantastic. So now we're going to get sued by Vangelis
And
Nintendo.
Atari or Nintendo. Yeah, you're right.
All
Nintendo.
right. That's cool.
We got the money.
That was. All right. Massimiliano. Ooh. Transparent.
Wow.
There's some sound on this, but it's very quiet.
Or is that you, Paco?
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
Paco.
All right. That was a good one. Let's go to the next one here. Ooh, I like the color scheme already.
It's in my palette.
Oof. A very Cirque du Soleil
Very Cirque du
basketball. I'd go see that. All right, Kathy. I think Kathy was worried that she hadn't been using After Effects long, so let's
All right.
let's judge it harshly. Are you kidding? That's fantastic.
That's great.
Hold on. I love that sound effects. Again, sound effects. You're getting an automatic plus.
Automatic +3 damage.
Oops. Oh,
Fabulous.
good sound at the end. All right. Ooh, someone knows what we like.
That's right, with the right color scheme and everything.
Yep. This is Jan Erik Edvardson.
Laugh track, everything. Wow.
Oh, that one may be hard to beat.
That's rough to beat that right there.
All right.
It's got a loop group, everything.
That's fantastic. All right, Dawn Marie.
Ooh,
Under the hoop. That was my specialty in 5th grade.
Yeah, just go through the
Uh-huh.
through the.
And we're at placeholder, which means we've run through them all. Did one of those stand out to you
Yes.
visually and audibly and sensibility and personality-wise?
Yes, and thank you everybody who put audio in. That really, obviously, is
Thanks for everybody for the
near to
submissions.
dear, and
But
everyone
taking
for
the
your
time to
submissions.
put the sound in. Huge deal. We
Huge
love it.
deal. We love it. Was it Jan with the Star Wars?
This one?
Is that the one? Yeah.
Jan
that's
Erik
it.
Edvardson. That's your favorite?
Gotta be.
Jan, congratulations.
Good work.
Jan or Jan? I don't know.
John. Yeah. We're from Miami Vice, so it's Jan.
Yes.
Jan Hammer. Jan.
Jan says he has already won Creative Cloud. What's that? Oh, this is playing too loud.
It's okay. He just gets bragging rights.
All right.
All right.
Well, let me put the nose back on, get serious. Sounds like it's cool you get bragging rights. So put that on your resume that you won that today, and boom, boom. Absolutely wonderful.
Nice.
I think that's pretty much it. We have a little bit of time, I think, to
You know
to
me, I keep talking about
prattle
anything.
on and on. Maybe we can talk about what we're going to do tomorrow.
We can. We
Let's
certainly can.
take the noses,
Oh, yeah.
noses off. I'm tired of smelling clowns.
I know, those clowns. Let's see. Tomorrow, we're going to be bringing up an 80-odd channel mix with picture, ambiences, music stems, dialogue, sound effects, automation. We're going to talk about busing. We're going to talk about 5.1, where to put things, how to pan things, how to automate them. It's
Sorry, our noses are very red, and we took. I was like, did I take it off or not?
oh yeah, my hand's still here. I feel it. So it's definitely for anybody who wants to take a look at kind of how Hollywood does large format things. We're going to talk about making dialogue sound great against all of these disciplines. And for those of you who are doing podcasts in particular, I really invite you to come because we were at NAB, and at the Adobe booth, they had a podcaster who was there very intelligently. She put ambiences, loop groups, sound effects, and actually background emotional outbursts from characters in her podcast. And it's a lot more immersive, a lot more engaging than just people talking. And even if all you do is learn how to put ambiences in your podcast, for whatever reason, people listening have a much better connection with your podcast, have a much better immersive experience, and than if it's just cold, dry people talking. Even if you have music in the background. What's interesting about this studio here right now is that we're not using lavaliers. We're actually using microphones that are hypercardioids. I think these are Rode NTG4s. I think
that's right.
Oh, these are 2s. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the 4s are a little darker looking. So these are the NTG2s, hypercardioids. They're pointed at our face. So if I go off axis like this, I start sounding terrible like this. So I have to be right in line with it. But what these afford us is the ability to hear a little bit of what's happening in the room, maybe more than if we had lavs. So it creates sort of this nice immersion along with the Paco music, for lack of a better term, that's going on in the background.
Yeah.
So this is a great thing, much better than if we use a condenser really close to our mouths. Look, this sounds great. You're not hearing it right now, but this is a really, really good way of doing it. But to add extra help to your podcast, when you do your post, just drop in some nice room tone, very low, not like, listen to my room tone, very low. So low you forget it's there when you're doing your mix. and it adds an interesting. It's not something that anybody's doing, but we do it every day in post in Hollywood and other scripted productions. And we're going to talk about ambiances tomorrow, and if we have time, show you where to be cutting ambiances, how long those crossfades are. It's going to be super cool.
Fantastic. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
I can't wait.
How much time do we have left?
About 10 minutes.
Awesome.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's give a bonus. What else
We
do
got
get?
so many bonuses.
You know, there's something that I know you're a big fan of that's in Audition that not a lot of people know about.
I think I smell what you're stepping
You
in.
smell what I'm cooking?
What you're stepping in?
Wait, I'm stepping in clown shoes. That's a feature that I was fortunate enough to be on the team when we brought it over from our research group, called automatic speech alignment.
Oh, that. Oh, I thought you were talking about something else. But okay, we can do that too.
What you have in mind?
Oh no, let's do ASA. I love
Automatic speech alignment. I think you have a project for that, or we can.
No, it's in
make
this one. Yeah.
we can make it up on the fly.
Watch this. Okay. Go ahead. I'm just going to set up the channel.
I'll set the stage for automatic speech alignment. Was designed for folks who are, you're filming, you're on set, or you're in a bad location. You can't do another take. You can't get a better recording. You take it back. You want to do another recording in the studio. And typically, what ADR workflows are is they'll just do loops. The actor will watch the video and they'll try and mouth along with the words. Try and mouth along with the words to try and get the performance the same as the original performance that was captured. But the problem tends to be that it's very difficult, especially on a close-up, to get that really accurate timing, to get that timing exactly right. And if the second recording, the new recording is off, you can make it sound as great as possible, but if it's just off a smidge, it's not gonna match my lips on screen. And therefore it's gonna rip the viewer right out of the reality, right out of that immersion. Of course there's tricks and techniques and tips and all the words that I can't say.
What happened to the college words?
I know. I can't get any words out today. You can get there and razor and cut and stretch and try and align, and eventually you're gonna, after 3 hours of this, you're gonna hit play and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I need to undo everything I did because I just butchered it. So what we developed was this feature that kind of figures it out for you. It looks at the original recording, finds every emphasis point, all the phonemes, everything that's being said, and looks at the new recording and says, I'm just going to stretch this a little bit and squash this and add, pull some silence here. And it tries to make the second recording match the exact cadence and timing of that first recording. And most of the time, it's magic. Sometimes it fails in spectacular ways. You can massage it and usually get it to work, but sometimes it's very comical. But most of the time, it's absolutely incredible.
Cool. When I saw this for the first time on the Sound Advice tour, I was like, are you kidding me? This is such an incredible thing. All right, so he kind of explained the basics of ADR stroke looping. I'm just going to do my best, and I don't have to be very good with automatic speech alignment to get it connected to what she's saying. And the irony that was hilarious is that I'm going to ADR her, which, gender differences and all that. So let's see if we can find a place that I can ADR quickly.
We can actually explore with that. With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked. But
that line right there, if you try to do it in ADR, because of her stuttering, it's really, really hard to do it. And I'll give you a tip for free. When you're doing looping or ADR, don't show actors the picture. Show them the waveform. That way they can see what's coming up. And in this line, it's really, really awful to try to figure out where her stuttering bits are and get your lips right. So let's see once more time.
We can actually explore with that. With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked. But
that's going to be really hard to do.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to turn on, this is the Samson G-Track Pro. I've got it on record. I'm going to put it on input monitor here. And just so we can hear me. Actually, I don't need to hear me. That's going to be annoying. So let me just see if I can get this right. I'm going to go back a little bit.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked. But
okay.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked. But
okay, so let's see if I can get this in one pass only.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked, but she...
Okay, now I've got this. I might be way too loud. I didn't even look at the levels. Let's see. Oh, explosives.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked.
Let's do it again, and I won't talk directly into the microphone without a pop filter. Not really recommended at all. Kids, don't do this at home.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked, but she was not a...
One more time.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked, but she...
Cool. Now let's take a listen.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked, but she was not...
And you can see if I mute me, I'm sorry, if I mute her for a second, it has nothing to do with her lips at all.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked.
It really doesn't really work at all. Enter ASA, and like Duran says, sometimes it's the most amazing thing, and sometimes it isn't. But today, I'm going to believe that it will be great. And what we need to do is cut the reference track and the donor track, what I just did, the same in and out point. And I have Command or Control K set up, so I'm going to cut both of these clips in the same way. I'm just going to get rid of this stuff here because I don't need it for the moment. Take this out of record so we're not listening to the microphone anymore. Goodbye. Oh, I got a bunch of takes. Is this going to mess with me because I have a bunch of takes here?
No, just do the top one.
Okay. This and let's go like this instead. This and that. Yes?
That's perfect.
Perfect. And I'm just going to unmute this just so we can see the color. I've drag selected both the donor, what I just recorded, ADR, voiceover, and her dialogue. I'm going to go over here to Clip, Automatic Speech Alignment. What? That usually, let's see, with 2 audio clips are selected. I bet you I do have more than one.
Oh, okay.
So these takes.
Move that top one over and just delete the other 2 underneath.
Oh yeah, let's go like this.
Yep.
We're gonna kill, kill, kill. And because I've already cut it, that should be back in place.
Yep.
Now we select these 2. We're going to go Clip, Automatic Speech Alignment. Usually this is the price of admission for everybody, that there is a thing called Automatic Speech Alignment. We're gonna zoom in. It's really easy. The reference clip is this thing that we did here. The reference is the LMSP, which I actually happen to shoot on an Atomos. And then the unaligned clip is this one here, track 20003. And then over here we have a bunch of selections. We can use tightest alignment, balanced alignment and stretching, smoothest stretching. And for me, I just like starting in the middle. It's not always the right setting, but it's okay. We can do this more than once. We're going to add aligned clip to a new track. It's going to create for us a new track with what's aligned. We're going to click OK. It does its work, and it put it, let's just zoom out here, down here. We will pick this up and put it there. So this is the new version of what was done. It's my voice, ideally, hopefully, aligned with her reference.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked.
What? Did you watch that?
That was
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked.
As opposed to what was before. I'm just going to solo my original.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked.
Now some of you are like, well, it's in sync, but there's some weird artifacty nonsense there. And you're right about that. So let's try a different setting, right? Let's just see what happens here. I think I can undo. There we go. Oh, I have to undo. Back to the selection. We're going to do clip, automatic speech alignment, and then the reference clip is this one. The unaligned clip is that one. Now we're going to do tightest alignment. See what happens. Bang. It puts it down here. I'm going to bring this up here. We will solo.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked.
Okay, so there's maybe a little more artifacts there, but look, it's in sync.
It's much tighter, though.
Much tighter. Let's do the other one. I got both selected again. I've undone. Automatic speech alignment. Here we go to the smoothest stretching.
Fix your
You're
reference
right.
track.
Thank you very much. There. We're in good shape. Bang. There it is down here. We'll bring it up and solo.
With Harley Quinn, that was also a lead that people really liked.
It got a little funky on the last thing there. So if I had to sit here and cut this dialogue, this ADR into place, it would take me a couple of minutes. But this did this in a few moments. of editing. And you're like, well, what about those artifacts? Well, look, the worst case scenario, how much time do I have? I've got like 90 seconds, right?
You got like 5 minutes, I think.
I don't think I have 5 minutes, do I?
It's got like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
If I had time, which I don't, I would then use the automatic speech align thing, which is 95% right, and then take the ka, right, which is the one that it's messing with, and just cut it from above and drag it down. Done, moving on. And that's the wonder of automatic speech alignment, which is only available in Adobe Audition. There's other things that do similar stuff, but not anywhere near as accurately or as good as Adobe Audition.
Fantastic. Mark,
Hey,
thanks again, buddy.
thank you.
This has been awesome. This has been an awesome 2 hours. Flew right by again. We've got so much more to cover. Good thing we have another day.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for coming in, for the questions. Congratulations to the prize winners, to the giveaway winners. Yeah, of course. And I hope all of you are as serious as we are about audio and using Audition. And I can't wait to get back here tomorrow, 3 p.m. Pacific, whatever it is in your time. I hope we see you then. And otherwise, have a great evening. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.